again, everyone. My name is Ilyas Okaji. I am not in Havana at the moment. I'm in Jersey City, New Jersey. And I know quite a number of you. We have been together on quite a number of trips in the, many, many years that we have been operating these tours for World Affairs Council of Houston. As I said, I'm in New Jersey and operating these tours with my company. And this tour to Cuba for November, with the recent developments, recent change in policy to Cuba, we decided to put this in the calendar. As you know, when you go to World Affairs Council website, the travel menu, over there, all the trips, coming trips, existing trips are listed. And you can find this presentation and the brochure of this trip on the travel webpage or the World Affairs Council of Houston website. So if you want to go over the itinerary at your own pace, at your own leisure, you can just go there, download the itinerary, and just read it in detail and follow it on the map. In a short while, I will share my screen with you, and I will go over the itinerary, not everything maybe, but the highlights, and talk about what we are going to cover and why this trip is important and how it is an exciting destination to visit. Well, the fact that you are here today joining this session, well, kind of is a proof that you are interested and you already know that it is a country worth visiting. And due to US foreign policy, as you know, there has been quite a number of changes. Travel was off and then on and then off again. And recently, the regulations changed and US citizens can visit Cuba. But there are always, always there are caveats, certain regulations, certain conditions. So visit to Cuba is classified under a number of different visa categories, and we most probably don't fit into any of them. There is no tourism category over there. You can go there for educational purposes, for academic purposes, for medical, in the medical field, blah, blah, just a number of different professional categories. Now, there's only one category that we fit in, which is supporting Cuban people. That is also called people-to-people visits. So we will go there under that category. And there is a special blanket license that is given by the Treasury Department to our operator. And we all will get our visa under that blanket category, and we'll be able to visit Cuba. The main requirement is still the US economic sanctions to Cuba are on. So we can simply, buy our flight ticket and go there and book a hotel and stay and do whatever we want. We cannot do that. So we need to be a part of a group. Hence, we have the group and we organize the tour. And we are not supposed to spend our money in a way that would benefit the state enterprises over there. So our money should not go into the budget of the Cuban government. So we always choose to use services of private enterprises. And I will emphasize that, and that is also a part of our program. So for this category, our visit to Cuba is comprised of a bunch of different visits that would actually normally, on a normal, regular touristic tour, would not be a part of a trip. But it is this time due to these regulations. It is a must, and it is also an evasion of the government-owned facilities, which actually is not a handicap, but is a positive point that makes this trip much more interesting. As World Affairs Council trips are, we are there to meet with people, to interact with them, to speak with artists and artisans and dancers and people on the street and people, just private entrepreneurs. So that is a really positive part of the trip. Having said all that, now I will start sharing my screen with you. Stop my video, share my screen, and start going over the itinerary. And here we are. Now, I suppose now you should be seeing my presentation page. This is also the cover page of our brochure if you download that from the website. Meet the people, live the culture. This is a trip of 6 days and 5 nights from November 6 to 11 to Cuba, to Havana, basically. And the flights are on United Airlines or operated by United Airlines. Direct flights out of Houston and back to Houston, a little bit more than 3 hours. So it is not a long flight. Now, here is a map of the region. We see Cuba here. And this is just very close to Miami, as we know. It's very close to Florida, about 90 miles to the northeast Atlantic Ocean, to the South Caribbean Sea, and to the northwest Gulf of Mexico. This big island. It is about 42,000 square miles, which is more or less the size of the state of Tennessee. And indigenous people lived here starting from 4,000 years ago. And then, we know the story of Christopher Columbus. 1492, Spanish came, old 15th century, 16th, 17th, all the way to 1878 till the start of the Spanish-American War, at the end of which U.S. took over Guam and Philippines and just purchased actually for $20 million at the time. And Cuba also became a U.S. dependency. So there comes the intertwined history of the United States and Cuba and the main history and importance of developments of Cuba in U.S. history and history of the region. Since 1878, it was starting 1878, it became a U.S. dependency. In 1902, it gained its independence. As we come close here, this is the main island. It has a bunch of other islands surrounding it. It's a small archipelago. The main island, its length is about 780 miles. And it is prone to hurricanes. Main hurricane season is September to October. Just if you follow the news, just recently, a couple of years ago, there were a couple of back-to-back big hurricanes. Now, we are going in November. That is already the end of hurricane season, and let's hope with all the change in climate and weather patterns and everything, nothing negative happens. The statistics say it won't happen, and let's rely on that. Population is about 11.5 million people, and the capital is Havana. So here we'll be mainly in this region, in and around Havana. That will be our destination. We'll fly into Havana on a direct flight, as I mentioned. So 1902, I was saying, gained independence, again on and off. In 1952, there was Batista dictatorship. In 1959, led by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, there was the revolution that ended with the foundation of the current Cuban Republic, People's Republic. Now, this is a close-up of the capital, Havana, the capital, about 2.1 million population. That is about 20% of the population of the whole country. So uh, Havana, the Havana harbor, we see here mainly the old center of the city. The historic center of the city is to the west, southwest part of the country, of the city. So we'll spend a lot of time in this area. The place we'll stay will be in a residential area, not far from that. And we'll have a few excursions outside the historic center. So this is a an aerial view of the city, just low rises and mostly residential areas. The historic part is this is the entrance to the harbor, and the historic part is around the harbor. One of the fortifications we see, and there were city walls during the time of the Spanish colonial times. Now, as we have another view, a more of a close-up of now closer to the historic center, we see a combination of 19th century buildings with somewhat dilapidated residential areas. Now, that will be the main theme during our visit. That is, we have to use our imagination. We will have to use our imagination to reconstruct some of the 19th century buildings to their original glory, and we'll have to use our imagination probably for the future of the country. But today, when we go there, we'll see a combination of both. The renovation is going on a bunch of important buildings and significant parts of the country. And again, as we get close, this is one of the main streets and evening view with the Capitol in the background. The Capitol that was the building was in between 1926 to 1929. It was modeled after the capital and the state capitals of the United States. And at the time, although the country was independent, it was still in foreign relations under the U.S. protection and was a U.S. dependency. So the Capitol building, and here is a view, an aerial view from 1950s. So this is what I mean by, just using our imagination to see all these buildings to as they were originally built in the starting from 1930s onwards. So we will spend more or less one full day in the old part, in the old center of the city, colonial Havana. It was developed around four main plazas. So we see one of the plazas here, Plaza de Armas. This was the military defensive center. Military parades were here, and this was what it looked like in 1800s with the Governor General's palace in the background. So this is one of the four main plazas, main squares, and the second one is Plaza Vieja, the old plaza, the old square. This was the commercial hub surrounded by various shops and enterprises of the time. And Plaza Vieja at the moment, let's see another view in more popular hours. There are all these street cafes and restaurants around, and street musicians and artists in the square. So it is quite lively, actually. And the third one is Plaza De La Cathedral. As the name suggests, there is the main cathedral here, the Catholic cathedral from actually 18th century, a little bit recent, we should say, when compared to the history of the country. Now, speaking of religion, of course, Cuba being a communist country, just speaking and getting correct Statistics on that may be problematic, but recent statistics by Pew Research, they suggest that about 59% of the population claim to be of Catholic faith, and there's about 17%, 17% follow Santeria. That is the folk religion that originated from Africa by the slaves that were brought in by the Spanish during the colonial times. So this is the Cathedral Square. This was the religious center of the city. And here we see cathedral in 1870s. It underwent a number of renovations. And the fourth one is Plaza de San Francisco de Assisi. So the square of San Francisco of Assisi, this was one of the bigger squares actually. And this being close to the harbor, this was the main point of imports and exports. Importers, exporters at the time were located over here. Their warehouses were around the square, and from here they could just carry their loads back and forth to the harbor, to the ships. And harbor also had, next to the harbor, big shipyards, and Spanish used while using, especially at the beginning, at the end of 15th, beginning of 16th century, on their excursions to Florida, to Mexico, to South America. They used this harbor and shipyards to build their ships. So it was, in that sense, quite important. Now, our visit in the area on the first day will also include this building, the Hotel Ambos Mundos. This is, just we'll hear about, of course, the intertwined history of, as I mentioned, just United States and Cuba. So there were figures, both literary or mafioso or, various figures that took part in the history. Now, one of them, a literary figure, Ernest Hemingway, he lived here at this hotel for about 7 years in 1930s. And here we see him during his third favorite activity after writing and fighting, probably. And here he is with the men. So we'll hear about this history in a bunch of places, and I'll come to him again in a short while. So he spent quite some time here. Now, some part of the day, again in the same area, we will spend visiting a bunch of private enterprises. They may not be, when we say private enterprises, we are not talking about big companies, big establishments. We're talking about real private entrepreneurs, individuals who just took the opportunity, the opening up of the country at least a bit, and they started food kiosks like this one, for example, or a wholesale food market, as we see here. Or restaurants, just we'll eat at those restaurants. They're called paladars, and they do a very good job with the food and with the service. So indoors, outdoors, depending on the season. So we will visit these little private enterprises and learn about how these things started to change. Now, having said that, for example, there is here another statistic. In 1981, public sector employment was 91.8. That is close to 92% of the population was public employees, and only 8.2 were privately employed. In 2006, private employment went up to 23%, where public employment went down to 78%. So this is a big change. It shows a big change in favor of the private enterprise of the people. And here we see, for example, another one, a fashion designer, clothing company. They also, Clandestina is the name, and we'll visit them and see their products and how they started and how they made it in Cuba. We'll learn about that. Of course, we'll also learn about the products of the prices of their products, and we will think whether Cubans can afford to purchase things from these shops. So that is another question, but we can ask them, of course, when we visit the place. And this is all, part of people-to-people program. And this gives us also an opportunity to visit artists' studios, for example. Here we see a painter, an artist in front of his canvas. I don't say, just definitely we'll visit this place, this person's studio. It can be, this one or some other artist based on the situation at the time we will arrange, or a printing studio, or a graphic design studio. So the important point is art is really taken seriously in Cuba, we should say, whether it is, visual arts, dance, music. It's taken seriously, not only by the government officially, but by people. And so we will see all these activities all around the city, people trying to incorporate it into daily life, making it a part of daily life. And later in the day, we will visit another private dance studio this time, and we'll see a dance demonstration. It can be salsa, it can be rumba, and then we need to be ready for the class and for the practice, and just we'll show our prowess, I'm sure, of how we dance to Cuban music. So get ready, please, for this interesting and enjoyable time in Havana. So after our first day in the old part of Havana, we will visit this Kohimar area, a little bit, outside, and a suburb or a village, small village at the edge of metropolitan Havana. This Kohimar, we will go there to visit. Now, this was originally established in 17th century, and in 1762, British Army landed here to on their way to conquest Havana. That is the historic part of it, and it has this fort, and it has the statue of Ernest Hemingway here. He has been there, and for a good reason. This place was the place he had in mind when he was writing The Old Man and the Sea. And he got the Nobel Literature Prize in 1954, if I remember correctly. And we'll talk about that. And if you haven't read the book, here is Hemingway with the local fishermen in around 1954, 55. In Kohimar, this is in location. And if you haven't read the book, you can watch the film, the movie, 1958 movie by Spencer Tracy, right? He was the lead actor. And here we see him, 1958, Spencer Tracy. When Hemingway learned that Spencer Tracy would be the lead actor, will be the old man, he was kind of frustrated, as Spencer Tracy didn't look like an old Cuban fisherman, just a peasant. Still, they went with it. It's a nice movie if you haven't seen. Then after Kohimar, spending some time and talking about this history and more, we'll attend a cooking demonstration. Havana, not only Havana, Cuba in general, they are kind of keen on organic farming wherever they can. It is quite uh, spread out, I can say. So we will see the chef and his aides, just having their organic ingredients and showing us certain cooking tricks and Cuban cuisine, Cuban cooking, and we will see them do it. And then, of course, we will taste, we will have our lunch in Kohimar, and then drive back to Havana, one of the neighborhoods, Lawton neighborhood. And this is one of the community projects. I just mentioned art being a part of daily life and how they took it seriously. This is an example of that. Muraleando. This is a community project that was started in 2001 by a local artist, Diaz Baldrich. And he started to transform the neighborhood into an art gallery with the participation of the residents of the neighborhood contributing to his art, the art that he started first, and then the visitors and the neighborhood residents took over. Of course, it may have at times, just local historic themes, but in general, just it is quite varied, and just we will visit and learn about this neighborhood, this open air art gallery, and about how art became a part of daily life of the community in Havana. And also, as a part of our day, we will visit independent artists and artisans market. We will see various examples of local artisanal production. One thing we need to remember, of course, just, we'll see a bunch of touristic stuff on sale. Now, there is this, at some point there was the embargo, and now there are the sanctions and the limits to visit Cuba. We're on and off. I mentioned that. From here, when we look at from the United States, we most of the time have the feeling that Cuba is isolated, which in fact it is not. Cuba is isolated, on its face, or facing Florida, facing the United States. From the other directions, it is not isolated at all. People from other parts of the world, they visit the country. Of course, now, for the last 2.5 years, this pandemic put a stop to that, and it started coming back, but from Europe mainly, and from Russia previously. More than 2 million visitors, tourists, visited country every year. And it has been one of the main income sources of the country. So the fact that, just from the side of United States, it looks isolated. The country is not isolated at all. As we go there, we will see people from all around the world. So having visited this place, evening, relax and enjoy a cabaret show in the nightclub Tropicana. This is a world famous nightclub. Originally, there was a smaller club started at the beginning of 1930s. The one we will go, this was established in 1939 and went all the way. And it is, of course, interesting and good that it was kept after the revolution. And we'll be able to see the show and talk about its history, which is kind of intermingled with nightclubs and casinos and gambling and the local mafioso that collaborated with the dictator Batista before the revolution, and the cartels and mafia bosses of the United States. From Florida, there's a figure, Santo Traficante Jr. So he was one of the owners of this place at the time before the revolution. In Godfather 2, you will see, Michael Corleone visiting Havana in 1958 to expand his empire, and this is in the background. So it has this kind of history, again, that refers to, its relationships with United States. Now, another day, another excursion from Havana, this time a little bit of a drive, about 1 hour drive. We will go southwest, Las Terrazas. Las Terrazas, a small village. We'll talk about that. This is now we have to remember that this is a tropical island. The climate is tropical climate. In November, average, we'll see temperatures of lower 80s and lower temperatures of lower 70s in the evening. So it'll be pleasant, I would say, for those of you who are in Houston. This is a community of sustainable development, and in 1985, by UNESCO, it was declared as a biosphere reserve. So the history actually goes back to, again, the colonial times. There were all coffee plantations here, and at the end of 1960s, because of, first of all, until during the colonial times, with the overuse of the land, all those coffee plantations, they were no more. They couldn't, the plantations, the coffee trees and everything, they wouldn't grow anymore. And starting with 1960s, the Cuban government started recovering the area that had been destroyed by the intensive cultivation of coffee. So millions of trees were planted, and a small town was built, an eco-village was built. So we will visit this eco-village, we'll visit the old coffee plantations and see how they developed that ruined natural landscape to this tropical paradise. And of course, a bunch of natural life, tropical birds and different species of tropical plants. So we'll learn about them in this area. And we'll drive back to Havana this time to visit another structure from the colonial period. This is on the west part, located on the southwest part of the harbor, Castillo de la Real Fuerza. This is, southwestern part of the harbor. And this is close to Plaza de Armas, the military center of the city, the colonial city at the time. This was originally built in 1558 to defend against the pirates. And this is considered to be the oldest stone built fort in the Americas, not only in Cuba, but in the Americas. So it is important. And then it is converted into a maritime museum. So we'll hopefully go in and visit the museum with its artifacts all the way back to pre-Columbian period, and to the colonial period, about ship construction and about the trade and about slave trade and everything. Now, having gone all the way, of course, we cannot skip one important thing, which is the cigars, right? Now, tobacco is, of course, one of the main products of the country. Tobacco, sugar, citrus fruits, and also their main items of export. So we will have an opportunity. This is tobacco production, just driving to that tropical village, Las Terrazas. On the way, we may be able to see, tobacco farms, tobacco fields, and they are collected and dried, and at the end of which they are rolled into cigars, either in these relatively bigger factories or in smaller workshops. So we will learn about the history, we will learn about the different kinds and the culture surrounding cigars. You will see people smoking everywhere, just of course. As you see, they are not packed. There are no warning signs on them that causes cancer or anything. So we can try. We have to remember one thing, though: we cannot bring back. So we cannot simply purchase it and bring back to the States. We need to remember that. So we'll learn about the cigars, without which no trip to Havana would be complete. In our day, another day, we will cover Callejón de Amel. This is another street of art. But this time, the theme is different. It is more of Afro-Caribbean theme, we should say. Now, we need to remember that this is a mixed culture country. There are, of course, white people from the colonial times. And again, from colonial times, they brought in from people from Africa, and all the mixture formed today's culture. So that Afro-Caribbean culture is there, and we will see examples of that, be it music, be it wall art, street art, be it various in different forms in the galleries over there. That is in Callejón de Amel. We will visit the place and visit those artists. And we'll also visit one of the local farmers markets and see the local produce, and most of which we will have tasted by now. Just, all our lunches and dinners will be included. We'll have them in local paladars, in local privately owned restaurants. So we will taste different examples of Cuban food by then. And the end of our trip, that is a ride on 1950s American cars. We will tour around old Havana in those historic cars. And again, we'll use our imagination, thinking ourselves in 1954, the Havana of 1954, and can be, convertible or just, a sedan all the time. So we will learn about how actually the mechanics, Cuban mechanics, they can still make them work and find the original pieces or make them if necessary to make these go. So we'll also learn about the history and the current condition of that on our final day. And that will be, here is another from one of the past trips. And the street life, of course, just our visit over there will not be limited with our visits, just walking from one place to another or on our leisure time when we go out. Street music is an important part of the street life, and people in local dresses selling various items, all part of street life over there that we're going to witness, see, and interact with. And that will be our trip to Cuba. So it'll be a packed itinerary, but still, it will not be a tiring one. The most important aspect is we'll be staying in Havana for 5 nights, so we won't have to, just pack up and move to another hotel every morning. Now I will stop sharing my screen, start my video here. And so this is our trip. A few more words, our accommodations. We will not be staying at hotels, the regular hotels with all standard rooms, for the obvious reasons that I mentioned at the very beginning. We'll be staying at, again, privately owned casas particulares. Those are like bed and breakfasts, and they are really well-appointed private rooms, private facilities, bar and eating facilities. And they are mostly close to the old city, but not next exactly, just in residential areas. And we'll be staying there, and we'll have good food at, again, privately owned restaurants. So that'll be our visit. And on the 11th, we'll take the direct flights back to Houston. So if you have any questions.
So I'll just go ahead and pose a couple of questions, and everybody else, if you have a question, will raise your hand. I can see you and I can unmute you. I'll call on you. We'll kind of start with some of the logistics, and of sense, many of us are so used to having a phone. Could you please talk to the usage, access, what that means if you're disconnected, and very likely you will be disconnected?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just, is there Wi-Fi? Is there phone connection? Well, the short answer is no, you shouldn't expect that. It is possible to make it happen, but it is, it may be so time consuming and so limited that you may simply forego. I mean, you may simply not try it even. Just on paper, first of all, none of the US carriers have any international programs that cover Cuba in the first place because of the sanctions. That is the first thing. So you may be able to purchase a SIM card or a usage card. Those are two different things. The usage card is, well, you basically roam using their local network, but for that, you need to purchase this card that covers, let's say 100 megabytes of data and 30 minutes or 2 hours of phone talk and 50 text messages, let's say, for $25 or $30. So you can do that. But if you, for example, forget your phone working in the background, like we do here, it always updates something, connects to the network, and brings in the news and that kind of stuff, then it will eat up that in an hour, and you will end up, using your card in an hour or two. So it'll be burnt. You can, of course, purchase it again.
Just comment a little bit also, kind of from the previous experience, was very much to your point that you buy a little, you think of like a scratch off card, right, on a post office or somewhere, a little kiosk, and we would try to catch the Wi-Fi signal, which was most of the time in the evening, and you would really see a group of individuals like ourselves sitting on a curbside trying to catch the Wi-Fi. So I tried it for a day, for two, but by then it was 11:30 at night, and I just literally gave up. So just kind of letting you know that in theory it sounds possible, but in reality it was quite challenging to capture that signal. So for all of the traveling purposes, I would just be aware that you might not be able to necessarily touch base with your home, but nevertheless there are channels of operations that are here, and if anybody needs to be messaged or reached in either direction, those channels are always open and available, that we can reach and be reached as well. But you personally, going back to a hotel at 9 p.m., laying in a bed and checking your email, most likely would not be an option.
Yeah, just if you were looking forward to some time to detoxify yourself from electronics, from connection, from Wi-Fi, from internet, this trip will be the time to do that, and you'll feel good about that. So
if you can talk a little bit about money and monies and what that means for the currency.
Yes. Now, money and monies, that is, of course, the official currency is Cuban peso, right? And now there was dual pricing and dual currency over there, meaning there is Cuban peso for the locals and convertible peso for the foreigners, for the visitors, with a fixed exchange rate. And foreign visitors we're only allowed to use that convertible currency, which is not the case. In 2021, the second currency was abolished, and the two of them were, combined, and there's now just one currency, which is the peso, Cuban pesos. And the exchange rate is, the official exchange rate is more or less 25 pesos for a dollar. And the handicap here is, again, due to sanctions from US side, and for other reasons from the Cuban side, we cannot use dollars at all. We cannot use credit cards. Not that credit cards cannot be used. You will see Europeans use credit cards. So credit cards, if the card is issued from a bank, from a non-US bank, then that may be used. But since I assume almost all of us have credit cards and ATM cards that are issued by US banks, we cannot use them. Hard cash US dollars, we cannot use them. We cannot exchange them officially. They will not accept. Of course, there's always the way of, exchanging money in the black markets. Instead of 25, they give you 250, 10 times as much or 5 times as much. But that is extremely risky, which is not advised at all for very obvious reasons. If you get caught, that is illegal. And you can be scammed because we don't know the money well, just we can have fake pesos. They can give that, old convertible CUC cook pesos that are not officially there anymore. So you never know what's going to happen. So going to those black markets, using the black markets, that we wouldn't recommend. So what is the way? The way is going there with cash, but with euros. So you can purchase euros here. And when you go there, you can convert euros into Cuban pesos. And another word of caution, which is just convert, in minimal amounts. For if you are left with pesos at the end, you cannot take them out. You have to use them. You have to use them at the airport if you have to, or before leaving the country. So just take euros, cash, and convert them into local currency at small amounts. That is the way to go at the moment. And again, for euros too, there's black market too. Just official. Recently, I think it was 28 instead of US dollars 25. And in the black market, it can be 5-6 times as much. But again, just taking the risk is risky. Well, of course, just when we are around certain, more dependable people, can be our guides or can be the hotel personnel, they may offer to exchange money at that favorable rates. Those things may happen. So use your discretion.
But be cautious. We do not want to leave
any cautious, definitely
behind.
No, you don't.
Let's not try that. Another question, Ilyas, on what kind of food can we expect? Do you know?
Yes. What kind of food? Well, Cuban food, it's not so, it's familiar to us. I'm sure you have been to Cuban restaurants, right? Now, of course, the staple is rice and beans, both of which they produce on the island. And combine it with shredded beef, pork, various seafoods, and of course, plantains, tropical fruits, and chicken is in various forms, so we try to have or try various different dishes from the island. I wouldn't say, just Cuban food is, Cuban cuisine is not, to be honest, one of the, just top cuisines of the world, and that is, so, but still, it is delicious and it's nutritious, and we will have, a different varieties of food, both for lunch and for dinner, all included, on our tour.
And I think I just have one more question slash comment, or maybe commentary from you. I know that there are a lot of individuals living in US that have Cuban heritage, and for some, or for many, going back to their motherland, or the heritage where they come from has been on radar for many. Can you a little bit comment on, are there not restrictions? You were born in Cuba, those citizenship questions.
Yeah, there are questions and there are restrictions, in the sense that, for US citizens who will not be considered to have Cuban connection, we are fine. We are covered under that blanket, people to people visa regime, and we'll have our visas issued by our operator. Everything is fine. If a traveler is considered to have a Cuban relation, Cuban heritage, or directly, born in Cuba somewhere, no, it is difficult. They are not covered by the Cuban government. They are not covered under this visa regime. So they have to apply for a separate and different visa through the Cuban embassy, and it takes time, and it brings a bunch of questions, and there may be different questions and obligations behind. So depending on, what the nature of your relation to Cuba is, there may be restrictions, or even, certain unwanted situations.
And I did not want to scare anybody, but I didn't want to have a comment on this early, as again, quite a few times that we have toured, we have individuals, certain heritage, joining us for the experience of the country that we go to. Again, just a word of caution. If we need to plan around it, we'll let us know. So I already starting to see questions. I'll read one. I see that from Sylvia. Does anybody else have a question that you are ready to? So Mark and Sylvia, read your question next. And I see that Lee, you will have question after. So Sylvia and Mark, I'm gonna just go ahead and unmute you if you can state a question, and then Lee, I'm gonna mute you afterwards and have that. Sylvia, Mark?
We were wondering if you're gonna go by the Hemingway house that has the boat, that's not far out of Havana. And then also if you're going to multiple Hemingway bars where he copiously drank daiquiris, and also mojitos too, although he not so much.
Yeah. Mojitos, definitely.
But I was thinking also, so if one has euros, can you use those in bars and places and to buy things?
The answer is no. The answer is no.
They're not going to take it.
No, I mean, even if they do, they'll give you back pesos, and you'll end up with, more pesos than you started with. So,
okay.
Yeah.
But Elias, the answer to the question about going, first part of the question that Mark and Sylvia had.
That is the bars. They are in Havana, and the house that is out of reach at the moment for us. I mean, for this itinerary. So a bunch of different places are included, and that is out of the way. And I see a kind of related question here. How much free time is there? Can we explore on our own? Well, there will be some free time, but not, we'll be busy walking around. And of course, late in the afternoon, most of the time, we will have some free time until dinner or after dinner. Just we'll have free time to walk around, and people are outside. Life goes on till late times of the day, hours of the day. So it is possible to explore the nightlife and bars. The historic places, most of the places we will cover anyhow. There are a number of places I wanted to include personally. For example, the Museum Revolution. We can't, because it's under renovation in the first place, closed. And the second thing is we wouldn't be able to go in because it's under the restrictions list. So we wouldn't be allowed. There are a bunch of similar museums, for example, that we officially are not allowed. But again, whatever we cover, the historically important, we will cover most of them during our trip in the first place.
Thank you, Lisa. I know that Lee has a question, and then I see there another one in the feed. So Lee, it's all yours. You know how to unmute yourself, or do you need to help you?
There I go.
Here.
I have a couple of questions. First is about our visa. Will we be needing to send our passports to the World Affairs Council for that purpose, or is the visa issued some other way?
They just want the copy of the passport unless they change something, in the coming month or two. For the moment, only copy of the passport number. We make a list. We include the copies of your passports, and we send all to them, and they issue a blanket visa, for the whole group. Basically, that's how it works.
My second question deals with COVID. Is there anything that's going to be required of us to be able to enter the country in way of a COVID test? Or do we just walk in?
But we just walk in, basically. No COVID tests are required. And as you know, on the way back, US also removed the restriction or the requirement of getting a PCR test. So we are all good. But again, in any case, we should be vaccinated, and we should have our vaccination cards with us during the trip.
Okay. My last question is about frequent flyer. This is a airline that flies under the United banner. Can we have our frequent flyer number attached to our ticket so that we can get miles and possibly get upgraded?
We can do that. We can do that. About upgrade, I doubt that, but you may be able to get miles. But again, since this is a group booking, whatever you would have, miles you would have got if you booked another flight individually, you might get a percentage of that, possibly.
Well, I think that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. I do see that Judy has asked about any electrical devices, adapters, and so forth. And Lee, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. Yep.
Yeah.
So Elia's question, electrical adapters and so forth.
Now, just what is that? Not transformers, not power adapters, but outlet adapters will be needed. That I say because most of the items, just you can check, of course, whatever electrical appliance or thing you're planning to bring with you. Check that it works with 110, 220, just all universal, and almost all the electronic items that were built for the last 10, 15 years, they work with both. So you won't need any power adapters. But the two-pronged, if I remember correctly, the two-pronged European style plug adapters will be needed. Now, just to remind one thing, we will prepare a booklet, a number of pages that covers all this information together with photos and everything, which will be distributed to the travelers in advance of the trip. So you'll also get this and more detailed information about what to bring with you, what not to bring with you, and kind of stuff.
Again, not so many electronics, mainly before taking pictures, but reading and downloading data will go back to the same street corner and trying to catch the Wi-Fi. But I do understand the importance of capturing the images and the memories. I have another question actually in the feed, but anybody else has a question, you want to raise your hand? Dennis, I see you. If you unmute yourself, or if you need help, let me know. Almost.
Okay, what about crime if you're out and about in the evening? Is it safe?
Crime in general, the city is safe. Just there are no violent crimes. But extremely rare. So it is mostly safe. But it doesn't mean there are no, for example, pickpocketers or scammers who would want to take you to this bar and have you spend, a lot of money over there, or so generally it is safe to be outside at night. But again, you need to use your discretion, as in any big city, just stay away from dark streets and dark corners.
Anybody else has a question?
One question.
Yeah, go ahead, go.
You said we need euros. So do we get the exchanges here in the US and then get the pesos in Cuba?
That is right. You need to get euros here, take euros with you, and then exchange that to pesos once you arrive there, either at the bank, at the airport. There are, various other ways of legally exchanging foreign currency to local pesos.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Like about how much money in euros should we take with us over there?
Let's say in dollars. Yeah, that is a tricky question, in the sense that, all the trip expenses and all the meals are covered in the first place. So whatever you're going to spend, you'll spend for mojitos, you'll spend for any other kind of drinks, you'll spend for any souvenirs that you might buy, except cigars. So just, you need to think of what kind of items you would like to buy. For drinks, it wouldn't take much. Again, I don't say it is, cheap, but, regular price. We are there for 6 nights. That is 12 meals. And each meal, if you spend, let's say $10 extra, that makes $120. On top of that, if you spend, for postcards and some woven items, some, souvenirs. So I would say, $500 would be more than enough, I suppose.
And so then if we go to the airport and we have some extra money, we can just spend the pesos there.
If you have
Coming
extra
back.
pesos
On
the way back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Even before that, the airport may not be the best place to spend your money, though. Still,
It may not be. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Very kind of along the same line, Julie is asking about, restrictions on cigars, but are there any other restrictions on what we can bring back to US? Any restrictions that you know of?
To my knowledge, there isn't. Art is okay. I have to double check that, and if there is any other item, I will definitely, just inform. And just for the First Council will, inform everybody in the booklet, and there's still time, and we'll have emails. But to my knowledge, for now, other than cigars, I don't know of any. Maybe alcoholic drink, rum, but I need to check that, to be honest. I'm not sure.
So now, very strategically important questions that how much and when and what's available. So as to what's available for the specific date, if you have not submitted the application, as of this time, the tour is filled. We have received applications from all 20 and some individuals that have a commitment and a deposit on the actual tour operated for the specific date. But I also know that we want to go. I also know how much we want to go. So I also know how much interest is there. And I also know it's our job to make sure that we can get you there. So this is that, and there is that. Trust me that Amy and Elias, we've been working knowing that this might happen before the session. We anticipated that, and it does indeed has reached the capacity. So we are, what that means technically is that everybody or anybody who is interested exploring Cuba with us, we're going to put you on a serious wait list. Serious being that really we know what is the interest and how many people are really thinking on going. And some of the kind of restrictions, a little bit of a, how many actually people can go, back to Ilya's point, is because it's not your typical hotel where you say, give me one more room, give me 2 rooms. It is a bed and breakfast, and sort of first come, first serve. And, if one individual claims the room or the bed, it's occupied. So therefore, based on these 2 casitas that we have, they are at capacity. But not a bearer of that bad news. I'm just saying this is so exciting and this is so good. We are already things in the works. Ilyas has been pushing the buttons back home, and Amy is working with Ilyas closely to make sure that this is opportunity and we can deliver. So we'll be, and I do know there's a question about the cost, and there's another one. But I'll ask Amy to pivot a little bit on the pricing. Again, keep in mind, let us know how seriously you are considering, so we know exactly what numbers that we're working with and have our best ask and best educated ask on the participation. So Amy, we have one question from Philip asking if you can speak a little bit of the pricing of the tour. Ilyas, you did mention that really every single thing, as in every single thing, you step in the airport and you get the pretzels on the plane. From that moment, and every single thing is included till you arrive back in Houston and collect your luggage. So Amy, I'll pass it on to you for a sec.
This is an all-inclusive trip. The cost for the trip is $56.70 per person occupancy. So if you are traveling as a single person without a roommate, it's going to be an additional $750. When we say all-inclusive, this means including airfare. A lot of our trips do not include airfare. This one does. So that's what Sandhya means by the minute you step in the airport, everything is covered. Visa fees, I believe Ilyas will handle those questions, and even your tips and gratuities are included. So everything is included, all-inclusive. And that's for these dates here.
Yeah.
And as Sandhya mentioned, we have, if you are serious about wanting to go to Cuba, just let us know. We do have a wait list, and Ilyas and I have been working diligently trying to get make that available to everyone that wants to go.
Yeah, and I do know, and we have catered to some already with inquiries about, we answered some questions about upgrades, again, because this is kind of restricted group tour. Upgrade per se might not be, however, plane does have some business seats, limited because it's up to the plane, not really up to us. So if I've seen some individuals asking the feed also about availability. It goes back to first come first serve and what's available, but that is flat out buying increased. And I do have to say that we all know the airfare has been such a huge factor, and we keep hearing about it. So having it all included, I gotta say, it's just fantastic news for us. Ilyas, I do have one more question. Do most people speak English?
Not most, I cannot say that. Of course, we'll have a knowledgeable and English-speaking guide. And on our visits, the artist studios, dance studios, and those kinds of places, there will be people speaking English. But for example, just visiting those private enterprises and trying to speak with people on the street, of course, if you can speak Spanish, that is a quite plus. But for daily interaction, for touristic purposes, buying something, ordering something, English is perfectly fine.
Can I know that many of us don't have a screens on, but those who have, can you raise your hand if you are seriously considering joining the tour? No judgment. I'm not taking pictures. I'm just, kind of wanted to know what is really, what that we are working with. So, and again, I know there's a whole of the screen that I'm seeing that is muted. So again, my suggestion, there's another wave and there's a hand. So I think, Ilyas, we can very easily, looks like facilitate another group definitely on this opportunity. Again, we know it, we want it just as bad as you do. And we definitely appreciate you tuning in and exploring this, what it means to travel with us. Any other questions, and if they come after the fact, that's okay. You send us an email, Amy, myself, but Amy is really your main point of contact for this tour. So if anybody else have a question, you just go ahead and unmute yourself. I want to make sure that I capture everybody who has any comments. I mean, don't speak all at the same time. It's just way too busy. But if I can just offer my 5 cents, when I went, I was very much like yourself. I did not know really what to expect, and it was even more complicated process to get there, having United as a partner to fly us there. So it's certain definitely that the country has progressed and gotten accustomed to the visitors. As Ilya was saying, it's not that everything was in a pause for many years. There has been progression and development, and they understand the importance of tourism. They understand what that means for the people to people exchanges. So they want to see people like us, and we want to be also, offering that exchange. So I think some of the inconveniences might be a little bit inconvenience, but again, it's the way of exploring the nation and actually staying in these bed and breakfasts. I have to say again, they are accustomed to hosting foreign visitors, and they know what that means to host a foreign visitor. That might not have been the case 10 years ago. Again, when one of the groups that we stayed with, we stayed in a bigger hotel, but the shower was leaking, the curtain was falling on me. So I'm just saying, where you would be staying is even such kind of your vision of Hemingway's Cuba, of the period of the time. So it's actually more scenic and more personable, but definitely have a chance to go. I encourage you to go. And I like the hope of all people is raising hand, because there is hope. Hope, give me something good.
Okay, I just want to confirm with Ilyas. Okay, the visas, all we do is send y'all the information from our passport, and then you get the visas for us. Is that how it's going to go? Okay.
That is correct. You
Okay.
send a copy, a scanned copy, or just you take a photo and send it to
Right.
the British Council together with your application form, registration form, and the rest we do.
Okay,
That is
so
the case for the moment.
the fee for the visa is included in our travel package? Okay,
Yes.
all right then,
That's
I just
correct.
wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. And I see Eric has one last question about attire, what you wear, how formal, not formal, fancy. Elias, do you want to take it up? And I can chime in if you're done with it.
Well, casual clothing is fine. Just we'll be, of course, out and going to a nightclub and having dinners in a number of places. So for those, again, some nice casual clothes is fine. And I gave you the temperatures already. So during the day, it's going to be lower 80s. And we may expect a little bit of rain, especially towards the evening, in the afternoons. So an umbrella, a raincoat will be too much. It'll be hot and humid. But an umbrella would be good just in case. Short sleeves, wearing shorts is okay during the day, or for the visits, for the excursions. Even then, for the forest, just shorts. I don't think it's a good idea to wear shorts for a hike in the forest. And for dinners, just long pants would be better, I suppose.
And again, we don't really have anything formal as such as we would in the itinerary. This is very much a people-to-people exchange. You saw in the images that we might be sitting on a street in a good way. Think of, great seeing life around you, not necessarily being enclosed, environment. So like something other, but it's not very formal type of experience. So Judy, any chance of swimming? Is that what you're saying? Swimming? Chance of swimming.
Any chance for swimming? That is slim, I would say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really
in this itinerary. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I could check that. But
Hey,
I mean,
throw in your
time-wise,
bathing
first of
suit.
all,
What-
yeah,
You know,
time-wise.
what's the thing? Throw in the bathing suit, right? What if? Be ready.
Yeah,
for it.
exactly. What if? That's true.
But yeah, it was not very formal. It was casual. Again, just think of any nations of the world that go there on a regular basis for summer vacation. So they come dressed as, you know, people would travel to warm climate, Greece and whatnot, you know, to accommodate the climate. Well, I think it's very exciting and excited. I hope you feel the energy and desire to go and explore the nation. We are certainly ready, and we appreciate your interest too. I know it's getting quite late in the day too, but again, it's quite invigorating for me to reminisce about time spent there and possibly going back. Unless we have any other questions, I'm gonna probably I'm gonna go to countdown backwards and 5 and 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. It's over. No, but yeah, I was just gonna say good night for everybody for being here. Elias, any last thoughts on your side?
Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody for your interest, and I hope you'll be on the trip and enjoy the country and learn the country.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Again,
Elias.
Again, Amy is your point of contact, and definitely stay in touch, be in touch. Let us know how interested you are so we make sure we have a better ask as an organization to make sure we can put this forward. All right, I think everybody good? Off we go.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye,
Good
thanks.
night, everybody.